Final day of racing today on day 3 of the 2022 virtual Walmart Joe Martin stage race as we move to the Experience Fayetteville Criterium today in downtown Fayetteville as sprint racing gets underway today on the short Criterium course, one of the longest in America, but this will be a decisive Criterium course ending 3 days of GC racing with the time trial on Friday in Devil's Den State Park, the Mount Sequoia Road Race yesterday, the longest stage of the Echelon Racing League, and then today, the Experience Fayetteville Criterium as speed comes to the streets at the Walmart Joe Martin stage race. And welcome back, Brad Soner with Lauren Hall for day 3 of racing this weekend. And Lauren, our final regular season race of the Echelon Racing League as we get ready to move to the league championships up next after this. But couldn't think of a better way to end the Echelon Racing League than my favorite kind of racing, Criterium Day.
I'd have to agree with you, Brad. I mean, it's been such a good season watching all these guys and gals just go head to head. And God be punished everybody yesterday in the women's race. So yeah, hopefully the Criterium today can shake things up a little bit.
Things will be much different today than they were on the long Mount Sequoia Road Race stage yesterday. Let's go back and start with our pro men. First up on the schedule today, it was Eric Hill that really had the big story of the day with his breakaway. The group got started together. We eventually saw 3 riders getting away, led by Eric Hill. That eventually went down to Hill and Oliver Dowd with him. And then just barely getting caught at 1.4K to go. Hill starts to get swallowed up here. He almost made it to the line in a heroic effort for the Project Echelon racing team. But after that catch was made, that set up a great battle with 5 riders coming together to go all the way to the line. And then, Lauren, it was really about that last finishing kick up to the finish.
Yeah, and it just came down to that sprint finish like you're saying. And we normally what we've seen in these races is that one guy or gal is just like comes from nowhere out of the screen and just crushes the sprint, but we didn't see that yesterday, and I think that's a testament to how hard yesterday's race was from start to finish.
Bouchard Hall, Nair, Bickley, Oosborne, all in this group, and Ben Thomas, the time trial winner from stage 1 of the Walmart Joe Martin stage race. Thomas took an early jump, but then it was Bickley for the Above and Beyond Cancer team slipping right through the middle. Held it for a nice 50 meters after he made the pass on Kevin Bouchard Hall here, and then goes on to win stage 2. A big win for Brad Bickley and a big pickup for Above and Beyond Cancer on a big climbing day on stage 2.
I'm just going to off the top interrupt and say my team rode unbelievable today. Like, to have Travis up the road really let me sit in and not kill myself on some of those early climbs. And then I knew if I was there at the end, it could be there could be a chance. So yeah, honestly, huge shout out to my team.
The race today was very long and the course profile was difficult. Can you talk about the hardest portions of the course and how you and your team were able to overcome it?
Yeah, I think that climb, the second to last climb there was probably the hardest part of the course, just because I figured that if I was going to get dropped somewhere, I'd be there. And so, like I said before, I think we had Travis up the road at that point. And so I think that neutralized a bit of the pace in the main peloton. And other than that, yeah, just having Matt to take that big pull up the hill and kind of discourage any attacks from some of the other like really strong guys in the race, it really, really helped me and put me in a position where I have a chance to win.
Tactics played a big part of it yesterday, Lauren, as Bickley takes the win. You can see the average watts per kilo, 3.84 for Bickley. Pretty efficient day, all things considered, when you look at numbers like Ben Thomas's 4.63 watts per kilo. That'll be important in the time trial again today, or in the crit, sorry.
Yeah, and talking about giving it up for your teammates, and that's the name of the game here. So Brad Bickley and Above and Beyond Cancer, just that's what it's about. It's for the team.
as we said, into day 3 of racing today. We do have stage race scoring here at the Walmart Joe Martin stage race, so we have cumulative times each day. Ben Thomas moves into the overall lead after the individual time trial for Team Tour 2000 presented by Callis. He's got a relatively comfortable lead, and I say relatively comfortable over Matt Usborne because it's going to be really hard to get time in the criterium. No time bonuses today, anything like that on the line, so he's really just going to have to make a 7-second or greater gap if Usborne wants to move ahead of Ben Thomas in the overall. That's a big ask in a crit like this, Lauren.
Yeah, and then Ben Thomas being a former professional mountain biker, I think he'll know how to play this race today. This is right up his alley. This is something that he would be very accustomed to. So yeah, I don't see much shakeup, but you never know.
Thomas yet to get a GC win this season. Jaden Yeager, Zach Nair, and Brad Bickley currently occupying the top 3 overall. Yeager has been so consistent every week of the Echelon Racing League for that Restart Racing squad with just under 1,300 points coming into this one. Zach Nair moved up into second from the Project Echelon Racing team, and then Brad Bickley with his win also moves into third overall for the Above and Beyond Cancer squad. So you'll see a lot of battles further down in the top 10, looking at names like Ben Thomas and Kevin Bouchard-Hall and Usborne. Those are all battles that are going to unfold today, but we'll have the points decided at the end of this one. Don't forget riders competing for the first NFT trophy in the history of bike racing, certainly the history of virtual racing, minted by the Echelon Racing League and RGT. The riders that win our overall women's and overall men's competitions will have this NFT delivered to their NFT wallet on the platform of their choice. As we said, one of the new trophies of the new modern era here in professional bike racing, Lauren.
I like it. I mean, you're seeing a lot more of events go to this. I just saw Outside Magazine post about NFTs, and last night watching Supercross, it's about Bitcoin. So this is a space that we are all moving towards.
Well, riders getting ready as we are just inside of 3 minutes to race start. Let's talk a little bit about this crit course, Lauren, before we get into it. This is one with the hill. If you're a pure sprinter through and through, you may not love this criterium course. It's long, and there's a pretty good kick to it.
It's a beast to the finish line, but it's also, if you catch a little bit of speed out of that last corner, you can kind of run into it a little bit, but gearing was always very crucial in real life for that finish. But then also through the start finish, it keeps kind of plateauing out across the top in these left-hand corners. So it's not just about the finish, it's about pushing through the finish, at least back into the backside on the downhill.
I want to take you through a lap of the course here. Actually, I want you to take me through a lap of the course. This is one that you know well. First, the left-hand bend into the corner here, but a lot of long, wide-open stretches on this one.
Yeah, like I said, just this first left-hand corner after the start-finish, it still rises up through here. You have to really push through here. A lot of separation happens. This is a spot through here that there's some moving up and a little reshuffle. You kind of take on some water right here, take a breath before you start really ramping it up, and just flies in this downhill left-hand corner. Long drag down. This is a lot. This is a lot of fun. I actually just realized I'd stayed here for Crossworlds a couple weeks ago. Just didn't even realize that there was a hotel right there. You never see this when you're racing your bike.
Yeah, watching the speeds on the way down up to 37 miles an hour on the descent here, but then you kind of pay all that back on the way back to the finish line. What goes down must go back up again on a criterium course.
Yeah, and through here you kind of have done any reshuffling that you can, and now if you're at the front, you kind of fight for your position and hold your position. Try to discourage anybody from moving up left or right, because like you said, you are flying down here, and you're about to take it back to towards the start finish, and it's just crucial to be at the front, hold that spot, because it's just going to ramp up into that through that start finish line.
Another fast section here approaching 40 miles an hour. You can see in the bottom right corner here, and that's pretty much where it maxes out. Riders start grabbing a little bit of brake here into a nice wide open left-hand corner. Want to carry as much speed as you can, because then we see riders start to jump out of the saddle, attack on this section. You can see the course map in the upper right corner as well. There's a little jog in this section of the course, and then this turn gets a little tight on the outside here.
It does. It gets a little dicey through there. I don't know if it's the pavement or the transition from concrete. Definitely seen some accidents there. This is also kind of like that last-ditch effort to move up in spots before you take this right-hand turn into the start-finish straight. It gets a little interesting. People take some chances, a bit more chances here than you would throughout the entire other bits of the course.
You see this rider using the opportunity to move up, gain a few positions at least, but it's tough to gain too many spots when they're keeping the pace that high. Obviously, you can see the field strung out on this straight, and then you can see the finish line in sight out of that corner. I have to imagine that's a little bit of a tease because it looks so close, but of course, you've got to get up this hill first.
Right, and as you take that right-hand turn, it already starts a upward trajectory for the gradient, so it's you're already starting to prepare for the climb, and you can't just run your speed into it, so it just zaps your legs.
And this is actually going to be perfect timing, because as our onboard camera leaves the line, so too do our virtual riders, as they have just left the start line for our Experience Fayetteville Criterium. Again, you'll see them around the circuit. We're going to be keeping our eye on this elevation profile. We did see a brief attack from Jaden Yeager earlier, but much like the real-life Criterium, Lauren, it's going to take a while before that first big break of the day goes. We're going to see a lot of attempts. We're going to see a lot of breakaway moves that go away, but it'll probably be at least a little bit before we see a group establish.
Yeah, that's kind of what we've seen, haven't we? This entire race series is it takes them a little while, unless you get dropped right out the gate just by pure accident or mechanical. It takes them, a couple of kilometers to start shaking out. And yeah, it's usually halfway through these races we start to see the attacks and the breakaways start to really play into the peloton.
I want to bring in real life race director Bruce Dunn from All Sports Productions. Bruce, this is always a classic Criterium, not only because of the fun of crit racing, but this usually has some GC implications as well when we get down to the last day in real life.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Brad. I think it's truly one of the few criteriums in a stage race that has the ability to shuffle the deck on a GC. We've seen it. We've seen people hold their GC and they've absolutely lost their GC. Big-time riders, former tour pros that have come over to race in the U.S. Did not realize how tough this crit was. And so you have to watch the race. You definitely do. I know Lauren knows that.
A taste of American bike racing for the European stage racers that may come up, and a little taste of the American and Northwest Arkansas hospitality as well. I know the community really turns out on this day downtown.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. And I think with our new date in later May, we may not have the snow we had in 2018. So very excited to have the new date, and of course with the new sponsorship and now live streaming and more community activation. I think the Experience Fayetteville Criterium is going to be even next level this year.
And of course, you guys celebrating an important milestone this year, celebrating an anniversary, and we're all starting to become experts on Fayetteville, Arkansas from our many years of racing here in the United States.
Well, thank you. 45 years. How many times do you get to say something like that, and especially in stage racing of all things? So this will be an exciting year. I'm working on some great trophies that we will be able to celebrate this year, and just can't wait to see what all happens.
I hope they're real life trophies. Can we touch them and hold them, or are we doing NFTs now?
Absolutely. We'll make them in real life and present those. There's some talk of how they're delivered this year.
All right.
It's going to be next level, so I'm teasing it up.
I love it. Always something on the top of the mind for Bruce Dunn at All Sports Productions. Bruce, thank you so much. Congratulations on 45 years of success, and we'll see you in May for the Walmart Joe Martin stage race in person.
Thanks, Brad and Lauren.
Well, if
I can
it's
only begin.
anything,
Yeah, I can only begin to guess how that might get delivered out there in
you know what
Fayetteville.
I'm thinking is your coffee mug. I mean, it doesn't have to be much to make us happy, but it's
Yep.
not about us; it's about the racers.
Do you remember your best trophies or gifts or race prizes of your career? I know you still have some giant checks and trophies and things like that, but what was your most unique?
That's a good question. Honestly, I don't think I was on the podium enough to get those kind of trophies. You know, that was more for the GC riders. But one great one is over in the Czech Republic. We got a glass boot full of beer. Come on, how do you not love
There you
that? It's just
There
like,
you go.
and you can't be rude. You got to drink it. So this was before COVID, and we were all kind of cautious about it anyway. But we, as a team, we shared the boot of beer.
Pass the boot. I love it. What I would have given to have been there, passing the boot with your team. Kevin Bouchard Hall on the front here for Restart Racing, looking to pick up a boot today. Looks like he'll take his teammate Mike Swart with him. Usborne, Bickley, Dowd, Lister, Thomas. These are all the names that we saw yesterday. These are all the GC top 10 riders getting to the front. They know this is an important day, again, not just for the crit, but for the GC. It's such a unique part about this crit coming at the end of a stage race where it actually has implications, and the courses just seem to be set up so perfectly that there's just enough battle when you get to the crit day, right? We never really have a lot of blowouts at the Joe Martin stage race, so it's always close when you get to that last day.
Yeah, and I think back to historically, like Bruce was talking about this crit, it just totally like sets the stage for the entire weekend. And most of the time, on the podium, you don't ever see a true crit racer winning this day because we were usually having to battle it out for intermediate time bonuses or just be there for our GC riders. So I distinctly remember, as Bruce was talking about the snow in 2018, we won with United Healthcare. And I don't even know who won the crit that day because I was just so focused on making sure that our GC rider was protected and, we were going to game plan and protecting the jersey more so than going for the race win for the day.
Yesterday's winner, Brad Bickley, on screen now, the Above and Beyond Cancer rider. Have to imagine he's got support from the Above and Beyond Cancer riders today. I think riders like Matt Usborne will do what they can to help. Usborne does have some series overall implications, as we talked about, but it might be tough to unseat Jaden Yeager in the overall points competition here in the Echelon Racing League. And again, go to the league championships next weekend.
Yeah, today, this race will definitely be about sealing up this stage race. Bickley and Above and Beyond, those guys definitely have the race to their advantage today, I think, with some of the hitters on their team that they have.
Already some riders just coming off the back. A lot of times we see the early technicals get sorted out. Like if you're going to have a problem, if you're going to have connectivity issues that day, a lot of times it sort of shows itself in the first couple kilometers. So that's why you'll see those riders sort of off to the side of the course. Usually those are riders that are having technicals, as we're calling them.
Here on the final straight climb going up to the start finish, it's good to see it the first couple of times and kind of get your gearing right. That was always something that I dealt with in real life, is like, is it the big chainring, is it the small chainring? It's kind of you're right there at that speed and effort that I was right in between gearing. I'm pretty sure I would do a small chainring up that climb, but I say it a climb, but it's not that long, but it was that hard, especially after racing this entire stage race. It added up, and so gearing was super crucial coming out of that last corner.
And of course, it always changes on race day. You can recon the course all you want, but when you get out there with the other riders, the other teams, obviously the dynamic is in constant flux. We do have, again, access to the Discord channels to listen to some of the teams racing in the Echelon Racing League. Let's listen in on some of those, see if these guys are talking any strategy or if it's still too early. Guess there's not much to say right now, Lauren. I think they were trying to work out some strategy earlier, but it seems to have become pretty clear that this might just stay together for a while. They're doing 65K an hour on a 3% downhill grade, but you might have trouble getting away in that scenario.
Yeah, if this is the backside of the course, that was such a screamer of a downhill, and then you kind of get some recovery, but you can't lose the wheel. Just like in RGT, like as soon as you're out the back, there's kind of no catching back on. So you know they're probably pretty focused right now and just kind of settling into this race. I'm really curious how Eric Hill is feeling today after yesterday's effort. That was impressive, Brad.
Yeah, Hill gave it everything he had. That's for sure. That's I mean, the storybook move, right? In a bike race, you couldn't write a better, more classic story in bike racing than the rider that goes away and is heartbreakingly caught inside the last couple kilometers of riding. That was the story with Hill yesterday, but you never know until you try. And Project Echelon certainly gave it a go yesterday with Hill. Credit to Oliver Dowd as well. Went with him, stayed with him as long as he could, but in the end, Hill was left on his own. Heartbreaking, but that's bike racing. I guess you lose a lot more than you win, right?
This is true. But Dowd had been out there multiple times yesterday. Again, kudos to his ride. And just kind of the theme of the interviews that we've heard so far, like Eric even was talking about, you know what, well, I was there for Zach, and, you know, he got fourth on the day. He's up there in the series standings. So, you know, giving credit to your team, that makes you ride so much harder, especially on the trainer and plus in real life.
See Triple X Racing's Brian Hodges moving up as well. Hodges took some big pulls on the front yesterday. I think there are a lot of riders that were looking forward to that longer format of racing. Just gives you a little more chance to kind of spin the legs out. Criterium racing, especially on RGT, is intervals. I mean, it's all about on and off. That's especially the physics of the game that force you to slow down into the corners. You have to snap out of every one of those corners. So that's probably the most realistic part of racing on RGT, is that it doesn't just become how many watts can you do for an hour. It's really about strategy, when you use those watts, when you attack, and things like that.
Yeah, and we saw in the course preview how many turns there are today. So, yeah, all that is a lot of practice in these turns and navigating the dead space, and then knowing when the game comes back on and when you can sprint.
We were talking about this yesterday with Jackie Godby as she was riding well off the front, had plenty of time, was winning by like 5 kilometers, something like that. But even in the last run into the finish, she was still timing the corners. She was still practicing each of those turns. For someone that is, without a doubt, the best at what they do, racing on RGT here in the Echelon Racing League, but always getting better. And I guess that's how you become one of the greatest of all time.
She was even talking about how she would monitor her standing and sitting efforts and how she felt with her quads and her breathing. It's just, man, that's a whole lot of thinking. That's where she is, and I am where I am.
Saw Mike Lister taking a look at the front. Jaden Yeager up next to take a pull for the Restart Racing team. That squad, incredibly powerful. In fact, you can see a few of their riders making their way up to the front. Also the team of Kevin Bouchard Hall, a rider that will have a good shot at it today. In fact, there's Kevin sitting right behind his teammate, Jaden Yeager. Both of those riders getting ready for the upcoming National and World Championship run. Both be competing on the virtual platform.
Hey.
In fact, Kevin rocking his new Team USA kit today. Right on.
Nice.
Looking good, Kevin. Still has the old school hat, which I like. Gives it a little style, gives it a little flair. Nothing like new kit day, though. It's always cool getting a nice kit mailed to you.
That's right. I'm not quite sure that today is his type of course per se, more than I'd say someone like Jaden Yeager. I don't know if that hill quote is long enough, but again, are we going to see one of those sprints where somebody comes out of the screen from nowhere and just steals the show, or is it going to be like we had yesterday, kind of like a 6-man, 5-man straight up sprint?
I guess it depends on the dynamics of the group. If those big names can get together, the Ben Thomases, actually, I guess it's more the teams than the riders. Above and Beyond Cancer would need to participate. Restart would need to participate. Project Echelon would need to participate. And probably Team Tour 2000 with Ben Thomas would need to be on it too. If they all agree that they were going to maybe try and get a split going and send 4 up the road to duke it out, I could see that happening, 4 or 5 riders, but it would require a concerted effort, I think, and I'm not so sure that's going to happen today. Look at the 2 Restart Racing leaders. That's what's so dangerous about that team, too. Just like Above and Beyond Cancer, is it going to be Bickley? Is it going to be Usborne? Who do you watch? Who do you follow? Same thing with Restart. Is it going to be Bouchard Hall? Is it going to be Yeager?
Right, that's the beauty of having those cards to play is as your competitor, you're not quite sure who's going to be the guy for the day, and that's how you can successfully get someone up the road and take a chance.
Bickley back to the front here. Restart also has Oliver Dowd on that squad. I went with Eric Hill yesterday, Dean Cunningham, and David Blodgett, who we haven't talked about much today, although you'll see them when it's time. Again, that's one of the better organized teams, a team that really understands how to race on the virtual platform, how to play the game, and how RGT works as well. It's a big part of it. Bickley got a little space here. We talked about Bickley and Usborne. They also have Grant Simons, Sam Norris, and Travis Samuel on the North American mixed roster of Above and Beyond Cancer, presented by Bike World. Here's Usborne now, getting to the front. The FCC has asked us not to listen in on the Above and Beyond Cancer Discord anymore after the travesty that was Bohemian Rhapsody. Our lawyers got a lot of letters after that show, so we're going to pre-screen them from now on. If you weren't with us for the Mount Sequoia Road Race, we got an attempt at Bohemian Rhapsody over the Above and Beyond Cancer Team Discord.
I like that you called it an attempt. That's very nice of you.
Usborne moving inside today.
Must have been a little bit too cold outside on the patio where we normally see him.
A couple riders falling off the back of the group as well, probably because Matt Usborne and company are up there keeping the tempo high. It's easy to get dropped out of this group, and I hate to keep going back to the physics of RGT and the gameplay and all that, but especially in the criterium, it's really important because once you come unglued off of that group, which is really easy to do coming out of a corner if you're at the back of the group already, just like in real life, it can ruin your race, essentially. So every corner, you're in danger of getting dropped out of the group, unless you're pretty close to the front. You can make some sloppy corners if you're one of the first 10 or so riders in this group. But if you're hanging at the back, going into that corner, and you don't accelerate quick enough or you don't let off quick enough, you're going to find yourself fighting back over a gap when you get out of that corner.
Yeah, Brad, I mean, it's such a valid point to make and to continually go back to, because that's the essence of the game and that's the essence of bike racing, is holding those wheels and being comfortable in that group and understanding, you know, when you do get gapped off, how to close it back down as fast as you can and staying focused. I mean, that is bike racing.
See, Bickley accelerates here, and that strings the group out, puts some riders on notice. Forces Mike Swart to go into the red zone, comes over the top of it as they come up to 20K to go on a 7% gradient. So they're trying to make it hard on the hill. What they're doing here is hitting it every time they go up. They're hitting the accelerator, and they're just going to see who's left in, 15K from now with 20K left.
Like I said, you hit it hard through the hill, and then you keep the pressure on across the top, and it just adds up over time. And it's like you said, we just keep seeing it strung out through the start finish, and then it regroups a little bit on the downhill, and then we spit out one. And you do that lap after lap, and you're going to be left with a very small field.
All right, we're going to see if we can open up the Above and Beyond Cancer Discord channel.
Brad.
We were talking about earlier.
You're pulling too early into the hill and running out of gas halfway up.
It's okay. I'll take it easy until the right turn.
Well, why don't you listen to instruction? Pull as hard as you need to not have people come around, and then the last bit you can up it a bit more, rather than just riding everyone off your wheel.
I can pull the first half too if you want to pull the second half.
No. It's all good.
We're still not even halfway into the race, so
yeah. Let's relax her down a touch, boys.
Those matches are going to be really important.
You have matches? My wife doesn't let me have matches. I'll burn some things down.
Well, there you go. I guess the strategy is let's chill. Let's preserve our matches because apparently you don't get many.
The humor hasn't left, so they haven't gone too hard yet.
And Bickley back on the front after figuring out how to take instructions. And it's going to be Brian Hodges trying to beat these guys at their own game. Hodges is like, all right, you guys want to attack up the hill? Let's attack. You heard they were talking about the first and second half of the climb. It's just long enough. If you have two riders, you could sort of tag team up the climb, like at the finish. If you're talking about that last little finishing kick, it's not super long. It's maybe a 30-second climb, maybe a little less, but that's like two 15-second efforts where a couple riders can go all out, and you can get some separation there.
And then you also have to factor in the pre and post part of the climb, like they're talking about the run-in. And leading into that climb and then taking it over the top with those guys. We focus a lot on the climb specifically, but what some athletes forget about is the pre and post, and all of a sudden you're like, what's going on? Why does this hurt? Why is there separation? Well, it's just more than that 30-second effort. This is going to be a long day for some guys.
This looks like Restart Racing is leading a group ride up at the front right now as they let everyone up to the top of the hill. They get swarmed once they go back under the arch, but clearly trying to push it with those guys. Kevin Bouchard-Hall, though, is not, so that makes me wonder if he may be trying to save some matches for later today. There's Blodgett going for Restart now.
The other thing, if you have those guys hitting it every time on the climb, it's so hard for ones and twos to get away because you have to go that much harder than they were going, and they're already going pretty stout and pretty hard. So just like in real life, it is so hard to get away on this course. It is possible, but it is those that have the cardiovascular capacity and maybe not the power.
Hill gets to the front now for Project Echelon. You can see that time, two riders coming unglued off the back. You can just see them going out of the picture in the top left of the screen. So this is going to slowly whittle down. It went from 20 down to 18 now. Will Harden, the last guy on the train, and P18. That's why you see these riders swarming up to the front. Again, you don't want to get caught on the back of the group into a corner, especially if it starts to get strung out. When it's in a group like this, it's okay, but there is a realistic element to how the field either strings out or rides as a group together occasionally on RGT. So you will see some riders get left behind, I think, into the last few corners today. So these were some of the guys that got caught out. Seeing names like Zach Nair, surprising to see in this group, but it just goes to show you how easy it is to get caught out.
And how hard the day is. Especially after yesterday, Zach had such a good ride yesterday, but that was a long day. So recovering from that and then getting right back into today and just mentally preparing for these essentially gut punches over and over and over again for the next hour, it's so hard. So yeah, he's having an unfortunate day.
You see a couple of the Triple X Racing riders here. Talked about David Blodgett earlier getting a win a couple of weeks ago. And then John Cooper, the husband of Jackie Godby.
Blodgett had a good ride yesterday as well. Multiple attacks off the front.
And Bickley back at it. Seemed like Usborne was trying to rein Bickley in a little bit, didn't it? Just telling the young grasshopper, calm down, save those matches.
Got a long day to go still.
15K left on the ticker as Ben Thomas takes a go, but Bum Beyond Cancer takes over quickly. Bickley and Usborne right together. They're locked on wheel to wheel. Thomas only has 3 teammates on the Team Tour 2000 presented by Callis roster with Davenport, Lister, and Revel. But I think Lister might be the only guy left up here with Ben Thomas right now.
I think Ben's savvy enough
he's here.
To be able to handle this day, especially if you have the guys on the front kind of leading it into the climb every time. You start to get into a rhythm, you know what to expect, so you can settle in and have those expectations and know how to manage the efforts.
Hogman on the front now for the Hugh Dog Racing Team, Canadian. But then Luke Ahrens goes into the red to get back to control.
Every lap, just like we heard on Discord, every lap, restart, heads to the front towards those last couple of corners and then pushes it up and over the climbs.
They're certainly still hitting it on the climb. You see a lot of riders into the red zone. X-Speed United lost a couple already. We saw Blazovic trying to chase on in that back group. Gonsalves has had some good races. Sam Siebel, the other American on that squad, and then Jason Smith rounding out the quad of riders from X-Speed United. And looks like Will Harden wants to pick it up here. That causes a little bit of confusion in the group. Now it's starting to heat up, Lauren. Things are starting to get spicy as this field starts to string out a little bit.
All right, the second half of the race. Now you start to take a little bit more of chances and play to your team strategy more so than kind of let everybody settle down in the first half of the race and get those nervous watts essentially out of the system.
Well, now some even more separation coming off the back. You see Will Harden here chasing back on. Mike Swart is in trouble. He's into the red zone to reconnect. And they're staying on it up on the front. Down to 6:17 remaining in the group as Harden will be the last one to get in. Let's go back to Project Echelon on Discord, see if they're talking strategy yet. These guys need to sign Matt Usborne.
Usborne's moving.
You hear them calling out, Usborne moving.
That's serious. You go. You got a little bit of a gap.
I don't think there's anything easy about this.
Too many restart guys now.
Well, it sounds like they're just monitoring things right now, and what they were monitoring was Matt Usborne making their job tough.
Yeah, just like in real life, you can kind of talk to one another briefly and just confirm what everybody's thinking or continue with the game plan. And yeah, they're obviously watching Usborne.
Grab some water and get ready to do it all again because we still got a converting. So it will not be the last time that Usborne is called upon to do that.
Hello.
Hello, that sounds like Heidi Franz. We're going to get Heidi on headset here as she is in the house with Lauren Hall. Lauren is commentating from, I believe, Tucson, Arizona. So we'll put Heidi on headset, get some insight into a little bit of Joe Martin stage race inside here. Meanwhile, guys still all together, no changes there. They have settled back down. That group that was trying to get away has, looks like, given up the ghost on that as they go down to 10K to go here on the front, which means getting down to single-digit laps for our pro men's field. All right, let's bring in Heidi Franz now. Heidi, fresh off a training ride, was grabbed by Lauren and thrown in on the headset and camera. Heidi, thanks for being here. Welcome to the virtual world. Welcome back from the real life world.
Thanks, Brad. It's fun to be back here, hanging out. Lauren just grabbed me, so.
Have you done any virtual racing? I know you guys probably don't have to a lot when you can get to fabulous winter destinations like Tucson or Colorado if you're low enough to not get snow. But have you done any racing on Zwift or RGT?
I have, actually. Not nearly as much in 2021 and so far this year as I did in 2020. But did plenty of Zwift racing and RGT racing in 2020. I got to do a couple stages of the Zwift Tour de France, which was pretty exciting, and that was also one of the most painful memories of riding my bike indoors ever.
It's amazing how tough it is, but in some ways it compares to the real life race. Your experience at Joe Martin, how many times have you been out to Fayetteville?
2021 was actually just my second time out to Joe Martin, and I really love that race. It's such a fun set of courses, and I think I just love how the race works. It's a lot of punchy sort of climbs and stuff that I really enjoy doing, stuff that suits me well, and so I always have a really fun time out there in Fayetteville.
We're talking about how a lot of times the GC comes down to that last day criterion because the road races are often just so tough. So any advice on the crit course before we let you go? Anything you remember specifically about the criterium course in Fayetteville?
Well, I have to agree with you that the GC you can lose the GC on the last day. It's so tough. So don't put all your eggs in one basket in the beginning. Save as much as you can for the end, because the last 10 laps, last 5 laps of that crit can be absolutely leg blasting. It's you got to save all that energy for that last 15 minutes or so.
It's going to heat up, and we're about to get into it. Heidi, thanks for taking the time. I'll let you go get some recovery and food. I'm sure you're hungry after a ride, but we appreciate you dropping in on the Echelon Racing League here.
For sure, Brad. Thanks for having me.
Right on, that's Heidi Franz. Going to be riding with the InstaFund racing team this year. Little guest commentary today in our Fayetteville Criterium. I love it. We did see Luke Ahrens off the front there earlier. Looks like he is gunning for a stagiaire ride with Jumbo Visma. Lauren, any more pro cyclists coming through the living room anytime today? You got anyone scheduled?
Well, they're out. They're all currently heading out for rides. One is doing a time trial today. They've already left this morning. I'll try for Catherine Bertine here in a bit. Yeah, for sure. But other than that, I think everybody's coming.
I would love to talk to Catherine.
Yeah.
Part of, I guess, managing the Homestretch Foundation House, a program that helps female cyclists train up. Based out of Tucson, you guys have an opportunity to help riders that need to get those winter training miles in and sort of help them get to the next level of their professional career. Is that the best way to describe Homestretch Foundation? How do you describe it at like a cocktail party?
Essentially that. I mean, it's such a gift to be able to give back, and we get new athletes every year, and learning that we get a lot of Canadians, of course, trying to get out of the weather like a lot of these guys are having to ride on RGT. So just that ability to give back is a gift. And then we usually pair an athlete with someone that's more experienced, and that's how, well, another reason I got involved still racing. I was here in the house for 2 years, and it's just more about not just training, it's also off the bike experiences of how to eat right, how to sleep properly, how to rest properly, what to do on your recovery days. We bring in a massage therapist that we asked the ladies to organize. We also ask them to volunteer time in the community, because this community gives the athletes so much. We have access to doctors, dentists, physical therapists, you name it. And this community has definitely been a very warm, welcoming group. So this is where I definitely cut my teeth on all these group rides, and I'm very thankful. So it's the least we can do is give back to the community in some aspect. It's a great program.
And I like the real life preparation as well. Like you said, it's more than just learning how to ride your bike. There's a lot that goes into being a pro cyclist. If that's the route that your life takes you, you have to do things like do random interviews with announcers when you get thrown in a headset and things like that.
You got to take those opportunities when you can. I'm sorry to throw that into the men's race here, but Heidi is such a stellar athlete. done so well over the past couple of years, and just seeing her rise to the top of the peloton and become a leader in the peloton. And that's exactly why she's here. She's on InstaFun this year, and she's one of the more experienced athletes in the house. And she was out there helping a gal just yesterday with her TT bike and her setup. So, and teaching her the basics of a torque wrench and whatnot. So like I said, it's way more than training here. It's every hour of every day of how to be a professional athlete and what that looks like.
Well, it takes a holistic approach to ride at the highest level in the sport, that's for sure. That's what makes a lot of these virtual racers so impressive, to be here every week. I know, all the chaos that we have in our lives surrounding the broadcast, you have to imagine that is a lot of times magnified times 10 for many of these riders, but they still find a way to get the training in, a way to ride every day. In a lot of cases, I know for riders with families, sometimes getting some time on Saturday and Sunday mornings aren't the easiest thing with family schedules, but got to give credit to all these riders in the Echelon Racing League that have made it week after week on the bike.
And I love that we could bring Heidi in, and she's like, oh yeah, I know Joe Martin stage race. I know this criterium. Guys, save it for the last 10 minutes. So,
yeah.
That's just a testament of experience, and then also racing on the RGT platform as well. She's very much aware how hard this racing is.
Yeah, and again, a rider like Eric Hill, we know Eric's going to be there racing in real life at the Joe Martin stage race this year, so this is great preparation for him. He'll be able to think back on, how long that effort is, just how hard that final climb is. Obviously, it looks a little bigger when you get there in person, but great preparation for our pro women and pro men getting ready to join us in person at the end of May in Fayetteville. Group shrinking even further at the front of our men's races. They go under 5K to go. You see our helicopter view from up above here as the group sort of ebbing and flowing. The spring loads and reloads. It's like Matt Usborne setting tempo on the front. There's Eric Hill following through. Picking up some lapped riders here. You can see just how many riders have come unglued on the last few laps. Selection gets whittled down even further here at 4K to go. Hill struggling to stay on here.
We recognize this face from yesterday. This pain face.
This might as well be a replay of yesterday. This is like the Ocean's 11 scene where they play the tape back to loop over the same video. This doesn't look like much has changed since yesterday with Eric Hill. Back to suffering in the basement. The only difference, he doesn't have Emily next to him today.
Right. Who's born also starting to show signs of distress after a hard day of racing today.
A lot of back and forth with these guys. It's easy to kind of stack those attacks on top of each other. If Above and Beyond Cancer goes over the top of Restart, then Restart goes back over the top, it really starts to get very fast, very quickly, and I think they may be getting into that right now at 3K to go. Yesterday's winner, Brad Bickley, looking in good position. He looks maybe the calmest of the last few cameras that we've seen.
I would agree. Yeah, I mean, either that's a really good poker face or he's kind of feeling mostly okay.
This is also the point in Fayetteville, Lauren, where the crowd starts to make their way down to the finish line. It starts to get a little louder towards the last few laps. I know that's a feeling that you know and thrive on.
Seeing the opening video of the in real life race, as you're coming up the start finish to the right, there were two tents right there, and that's, as I was talking about yesterday, is that's where the host families and their friends kind of have this block party, this tailgate party, and that's where the Bloody Marys were happening. So you'd finish the race, do a full lap, have a good cool down, and before you have to go back up that hill again, because to the left of those tents was the team car. So if you just take a hot right, you can have a small reprieve and take a break and see all your friends and all the host family, and they all are just so stoked on the race. And then you go back to the team car.
I'm having trouble not banging on the desk right now like I was banging on the boards at the end of a bike race. Ryder's going to be getting one lap to go when they go back through the line. Next time, Kevin Bouchard-Hall on the attack here. There's the bell. Love it. Nice job behind the scenes. As Kevin Bouchard-Hall is going to try and do this one from 1.8K out. He's just going all in, attacked up the hill. Usborne goes with him. They got some space. Thomas needs to go. This might not come down to a group sprint. Bouchard-Hall and Usborne might get that separation. See Bickley out of the saddle, trying to respond to it. Bouchard-Hall staying in the red zone. That's him middle left on the rider's screen.
Brad, you know what they say, if you don't have a good sprint, then you go early, and that's exactly what Kevin is doing.
Yep. Here's the chase. Roca leading the way, but they've already got some separation behind him. It's not much, but it might be enough for Bouchard-Hall and Usborne here. They're going to come up to 1K to go here. Remember, they still have that last hill, that last kicker up to the top. There's got to be some fresh legs in here. Ben Thomas is moving up to the front. Here comes Jaden Yeager as well. He'll be the plan B for Restart Racing if this doesn't work out with Bouchard-Hall. And it looks like they're going to get caught here. Yeah.
Oh, right when Zoom went off. So, I mean, this is brutal right now.
And there you go, right over the top. Bickley will be the new man for a Bum Beyond Cancer as Usborne gets caught. Bouchard-Hall still in it. Here comes Mason Roca, Ben Thomas. Both have good finishing kicks. Usborne tries to go up the right side. Oh, Thomas and Bickley in a drag race. Still 450 meters to go. This is a long way to the finish line as Bickley opens a little space.
Kevin Bouchard-Hall still in there.
Bickley might have gone a little early. 300 meters now into the corner. There's the last uphill kick. They can just barely see the finish line now, and Jaden Yeager will light the rocket. Dowd gonna go with him. The two Restart Racing riders. Here come Usborne going all in. Usborne surges out 100 meters to go. He moves to the front. Dowd 10 meters back. Usborne is going to hold on, and Matt Usborne on the final climb surges to win the Experience Fayetteville Criterium.
Wow. What a sprint by Usborne. That was impressive.
And he doesn't have much left after that one.
You got matches?
Well, apparently he was allowed to use a few today as Matt Usborne surges past Jaden Yeager. I mean, not even close. To win by 10 meters on a finish like that when they were all together at 300 meters to go into that last corner speaks to how powerful that finishing kick for Matt Usborne was. And you can see a lot of cracked riders out there today.
Leading into the sprint, like you said, like 1K to go, Bickley was just in suffer mode. So that was one heck of a sprint finish by Usborne. Great finish. Ow.
We'll give Matt a little bit of time to recover and see if we can grab him in our SIS Winners Zoom room. We see a lot of efforts where you just have to lay down on the floor afterwards. I think that might be what Usborne is doing right now. We'll see where he ended up on the watts per kilo scale at 4.64. Not bad. As Oliver Dowd goes second for Restart Racing. They're going to go 2 and 3 with Kevin Bouchard-Hall into third. Jaden Yeager held on for fifth. Not bad. Put in a good run there to the line. Maybe trying to set up Kevin Bouchard-Hall, trying to draw out Usborne and company. Ben Thomas ends up 6th place on the day. Will Harden in 7th. Yesterday's road race runner, Brad Bickley, up there in 8th. Nice ride from him. And then Scott David and Brian Hodges rounding out the top 10 for Triple X Racing presented by Athletica. Lauren, what a finish. I am super excited for this women's race now because I think that we might have a chance to see Jackie Godby get beat. If they can keep this one together, our women's field might have a chance to unseat the champ. Let's go over to our SIS Zoom room and grab a word with our men's winner, Matt Usborne, right now.
All right, thanks, Brad. I'm here with the winner of Stage 3 today, Matt Usborne. Matt, let's talk about that final sprint. What did that feel like? That was amazing.
I don't have words to describe it in anything like a PG-rated manner. I couldn't have done it without my team. They were setting me up every single lap. We were timing the length of the hill, and we got a pretty good idea. Like I'm certainly not the fastest guy on our team, so they kind of figured out where they could, like what pace I needed to launch from, and I'm so happy it was able to work out. I got a whole team of guys here. We're absolutely all in today, and I think you could see it in the way that we rode. And hey, congratulations to the competition. Like, Ben Thomas, amazing athlete. Kevin Bouchard Hall, what more can you say? Guy's an absolute legend. I've actually looked up to him. He's a couple years younger than me, and when I was racing in Europe, he was coming up in the States, and he was like the hot prospect. And I've loved everything he stood for. I just admire him greatly. Same with Jaden Yeager. I think Zach Nair had a bit of bad luck today too, which is, kind of part of the game. But too bad. Amazing athlete.
Definitely. I want to talk a little bit more about your team this weekend. Bickley got the win yesterday. You get the win today. Can you talk about your strategy going into this weekend, and how were you able to execute it?
Well, I've been working quite a lot with Brad since he kicked my butt in another series in a couple of events. I thought, oh, who's this guy? And I have a role as the provincial coach up in BC, kind of like a state coach. So I sought him out and said, hey, I'd really love to work with you. And we knew he was pinging on all cylinders, and he had a bit of trouble logging in for the time trial. It was a bit of a panic. And then yesterday he was just like, I'm on fire. I was like, what do you need? Let's set you up for some success. Because it's a better feeling when one of your guys that you works with, when they put it all together, they win. Like, to me, that's the biggest feeling. We sat down last night, we looked at the time gaps, and we thought, Ben Thomas has got kind of a pretty good gap. The guy's incredible. And we thought that maybe I was the best placed one to kind of take a run at that.
Worked out for you. Congratulations to you guys, to your team, and to you specifically. Brad, back to you.
Thanks.
Cancer team. It sounds like that was a big part of the success. Lauren, always love when the riders give a shout out to their teams. It really highlights how much of a team sport this is in professional cycling. Women have just taken off from the start line, and a little bit of separation already on the front. A group of 4 riders getting away, led by none other than Jackie Godby. But guess what? She's got Rhea Mobbs, Erin Ayala, and Mallory McCrosty with her. So we got a little group on the front of this race.
It's good to see those gals all together. Good to see Mobbs kind of figuring out whatever happened yesterday with her trainer and back up there. I think she's definitely going to be chomping at the bit today for a race win. And just going back to those words Usborne was talking about, he's no truer words from a coach than to be proud of your athlete winning. And then I was also looking back at the standings and today's efforts in watts per kilo. If you look back at Bickley's effort, he was actually doing 4.7 watts per kilo, and that's where Usborne was like, hey man, calm down, this is going to be okay. That's a coach, just even in racing, is able to coach an athlete through staying calm and let's just find a rhythm.
Yeah, so much of it is just sticking to your plan and, understanding what's going on. I know this happens a lot on the road too, but even the GC implications, to be able to think on your feet and understand the situation on the road and think about, okay, how far down am I? How many points did I have coming into this? All of that matters in a stage race. Like when a rider goes up the road and you have to think, are they 7 seconds back? Are they 20 seconds back? Are they a threat or not? So it's cool to see the tactics coming in to virtual racing. Ben Thomas will end up winning the overall for our pro men's field as he was able to hang just enough with Matt Usborne to end up at 2 hours, 44 minutes, and 57 seconds on the GC. Matt Usborne, as we said, ends up second, just behind. He did shave a little bit of time off. I think he was 8 seconds down coming into the day, ends just 4 seconds down, so it was close for Usborne in the overall. And then Kevin Bouchard-Hall will end up third on GC at 2:45.05. Once again, the crit almost changes the GC scenario, Lauren.
Right, like we've said all weekend, is Joe Martin is just a different type of stage race where normally in other stage races it's kind of split out a little bit longer, 30, 45 seconds or a minute, but not Joe Martin. It always comes down to this last day, and that's seeing those times right there is just a testament of those truths.
Nice overhead view here from our virtual helicopter as we see Ray Mobs opening up a little bit of time. If Bruce Dunn keeps doing what he's doing out there in Fayetteville, it won't be long before we have a real helicopter following these riders out on those courses. They've been making leaps and bounds at the Walmart Joe Martin stage race, but it could happen because we're dreaming big. Now, Bruce, you are the king of that over the last few years. I want to congratulate you and thanks for your big vision. How long until Lauren and I get our helicopter to come in? Is that a few years off? 3, 5 years? Like, where's that on the roadmap for us?
Personally, maybe next year for the race, possibly this year.
Okay. All right. I like it. I like your enthusiasm. Bruce, once again, we saw in that men's race, the criterium comes down to really the last lap, the last climb, and it ends up deciding the GC. So I'm super excited about the overall race this year. It just seems like there's something perfect about what Joe designed 45 years ago that, still exists today.
I mean, think about it. You're going out to Devil's Den to do an uphill time trial, much less do a stage race. So road racing and crits were obviously around, but he was one of the early pioneers on a stage race. And then to come down into the heart of Fayetteville, same finish line has been there. The course has gotten a little bigger, but same finish line that they did back in 1978. And as you witnessed, you have to be on the gas on the entire race, or you can absolutely lose your GC.
It was so cool hearing yesterday from Nancy Martin a little bit. We played some clips from your time talking with her, telling some great stories about the founding of the Joe Martin stage race and just sort of how this has evolved over the years. And it's really cool that Nancy is still so proud of what Joe created.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, she was on the press conference this past Wednesday. I'm sure there'll be some more interviews and more involvement from her. She's had a long history with cycling and probably one of the more knowledgeable people you'll meet, and someone that's not in the day-to-day racing scene, which is very exciting to have that kind of support, not only from her, but the entire family. By the way, we talked about bacon last year, and you said you just might come down last year for bacon. Well, guess what? You are coming this year, and we will have bacon hand-ups for you.
All right. Lauren needs it for her Bloody Mary because she's got a line on the post-crit Bloody Marys, so she's going to dip it right in there. It's perfect.
Exactly.
Well, if she can handle it for the broadcast, we'll have one first thing, but maybe, Brad, you might take it away from her until the very end. How about that?
Maybe like just the last couple minutes of the broadcast.
I'll wait. I'll do my job first, and then we can have some fun. Work first,
right.
guys. Work first.
Just like being an athlete. Bruce, again, appreciate everything that you do for American bike racing. Without you, these riders wouldn't have a platform and an opportunity to race. So I know you're looking forward to welcoming them back in person this May. But until then, I'm glad we could get together on the virtual platform here. It's always fun to see your shining face on a Sunday morning.
Thank you so much, y'all. Appreciate it.
That's Bruce Dunn, race director at the Walmart Joe Martin stage race, put on by All Sports Productions. There you go, Lauren. We got bacon for your Bloody Marys. You're all set to go for post-race on Crit Day.
Perfect. And kind of just going back to this crit and what it brings and what it stands for, it's the heart of University of Arkansas, right there on the square. Hugo's restaurant is a staple of Fayetteville. It's been there for years and years. Like I said, you bring out the host families. It's the graduate hotels right there on course. Like, anything you could ever want right there is essentially around that crit course. So come stay downtown, great coffee spots right there on the square. It's such a cool atmosphere, and it's and now that this race is in May, like the weather's going to be perfect. It's a perfect day to come out for a bike race.
You could be a cab driver in Fayetteville at this point. You know all the local landmarks. You know where to get good food, where to get the good coffee,
Yep.
where the
Donuts.
good hotels
I got
are.
you.
Yeah. Looking at Jackie Godby on our screen, the bottom right here, you're not only current GC leader here, but also current overall series leader here in the Echelon Racing League. She has been the gold standard that pretty much their virtual rider has been chasing, not just this year, but really starting last year. In the current GC heading into stage 3 here, she's got a nice lead over Kim Miller. But again, we're watching the battle for third and fourth. I think Maureen Nelson and Mallory McCrosty might be one of the big battles to watch today in the criterium. Just 7 seconds separating those two in the race for third and fourth. We saw Kim Miller yesterday, the beast mode presented by Rose Rider, ride her way into second overall at 2 hours and 20 minutes and change. And then Dylan Baker in fifth. Aaron Ayala sitting in sixth overall. That'll be another good battle between maybe Ayala and Baker and Ulay into a group. If Ayala doesn't stay with this front group. And then Carolus, O'Toole, and Nelson rounding out the top 10 in your current GC heading into stage 3 here.
And look at this. Like, I think Rhea Mobbs, yeah, man, she just had such a bad day yesterday that she's just going to take this race full gas today.
Remember yesterday had an issue with her trainer falling off the back. It seems like stuck on a heavier resistance than she wanted. So that obviously ruined her race on the Mount Sequoia road race, but she's back with a vengeance today.
And you know what's crazy about that is if it was on a harder whatever setup was wrong, like she still had to finish the race. So it's not like she had a cruisy day yesterday. So, but just taking the race straight on today for sure.
Mobbs with an 85-meter lead over Godby. So Godby in a unique position here. We don't see Jackie Godby chasing a whole lot on RGT. So this is kind of exciting.
You took the words out of my mouth, Brad. I was going to say the same thing. But this is good for her, I think, going into World Championships. Again, a space that she's probably not very used to. And mentally wrapping your head around that of not being the leader and being off the front by doing such a hard effort like she always does. So this, if I'm Godby or if I know Godby at this point, that she's probably thinking, oh, well, this is good training for me. So mentally and physically. But yeah, this is good to see Mobbs just taking it up the road.
Godby lets the gap open even more, up to 150. I say lets the gap open, although that may not be the case here. I'm not sure if Jackie Godby is trying to ration her efforts or if Ray Mobbs is just taking it to her.
Either way, it's a fun battle to watch play out. And then, back in third, Ayala and her very well-known spot for the podium. Not too good of a ride yesterday, so again, someone that may be trying to salvage the race in today's efforts. I also wonder if McCrosty has her fan club back today.
Yesterday we saw some of the Project Echelon riders getting ready to go on an in-real-life ride, but before they left, they passed on some words of encouragement to Mallory McCrosty as she finished up her ride. Here's Aaron Ayala, the Velocity Vixen rider, sitting in third right now. So Ayala is now stuck in between Godby and McCrosty. She's 500 meters back from Godby and another 500 up on the Miller-McCrosty-Ulay group. So a tough spot to be. I was looking forward to seeing Ayala maybe sprinting with that Godby Mobbs group. So maybe if Mobbs lets off, Godby calms down a little bit, that group of three might come back together if things calm down. But I have a feeling Mobs and Godby are just going to be trading blows up at the front all day, and Erin Isle is going to be paying for that all by herself in third.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we kind of see where Ayala is going to stick out for the day. But it'd be interesting to see if Mobs does kind of fade a bit with such a early effort. But, Godby doesn't seem to be too stressed or too worried. It's still early in the race, 25K to go still.
Good look at Kit Miller. Up next, saw Miller ride into second place yesterday on the Mount Sequoia Road Race. We were guessing, you'll notice she has a little dog bed to the right side of where she's riding. We saw a couple of the dogs yesterday, and we were wondering what the names were. She was nice enough to answer on Instagram. Lauren, I know you're always on dog watch here. It's Yua and Panchita, the two dogs that were keeping her company. So thank you very much to Yua and Panchita for making an appearance on the broadcast yesterday, and thanks for letting us know, Kim. We're talking about time zone.
We have to know about our fans.
Germany yesterday as well. Yeah, it's an important part of maximum performance. A happy rider is a fast rider, as they say, right? And who's not happy when you got your dogs next to you?
That's right.
This group going to be a great battle to watch. McCrosty, Baker, Miller, and Ulay. There's McCrosty. Looks like the road bike is back on the trainer today. Wonder if there's a sort of breaking in period for a new pain cave, like when you move and you're kind of out of your element. It's like, you get a new bike, it's a new environment. I would imagine you kind of have to settle in for a while. Get
Fan
used to it, make sure everything's
important.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure everything's where you want it to be,
Airflow.
within reach, all that stuff.
How to, of course it is. How the garage is positioned and what you're looking at and staring at, and music and all those little things. I mean, you look at Godby's setup; she hasn't changed a thing, I don't think, in 2 years. But you got to know that your setup's perfect. Again, like the internet cord and your power cords for everything. I'm sure they're still fine tuning the pain cave.
There's always those weird new home things too that you have to get worked out. Where it's like, why is my cable plugged in? And oh no, Mobs looks like having another mechanical here. Ray Mobs losing power and not registering anything.
Oh man, Brad, she can't catch a break.
And now she's got to get back on it. Here comes Godby behind her. The mechanics are in looking to offer a little bit of help. She did get moving, but Godby goes right by her. Oh, it's so hard to restart and get back up to speed as well. Once you lose that. Oh.
That's tough to watch.
Breaks.
That is, oh man, she's so frustrated. But if she can just get back into the game a bit, like she can still, she's still on the podium right now. So refocus, get back under control. Hopefully everything's plugged in right, and she's still sitting in a podium spot, which is going to be good, and it's still going to be a good salvage from yesterday too.
Unfortunately, I have to imagine that stays in your mind. Like when you have a drivetrain issue, or you start dropping a chain, or you have a problem with your tire or wheel or something, you're always like, is this going to be an issue? Is something going to go wrong? You're always sort of waiting. Gap at 130 meters for Mobs to get back right now. That's a big ask to come back to Jackie Godby. But Rhea Mobs is hungry. Oh, she's going deep here. That hurts. Godby, meanwhile, steady as ever. Down on the bottom right of your screen. Look at her power, up at almost 500 watts. Mobs doing the same on the left side, trying to get up there. She's getting closer. 50 meters to the wheel. And now Mobs around the switchback. She's going to do it. She's got to close this last little bit, and then I think Mobs is going to be back with Godby. She won't be able to get back that lead that she had, but she'll at least be back in the mix, and there it is. You can see she just made contact, and she can relax just a little bit now. Just a little calmer. Try to take the little bit of rest that you can get, and then figure out how to beat Jackie Godby on the line. That's the only thing that Rhea Mobs can do right now. It's about strategy. It's about being efficient. It's about saving as much energy as she can and then trying to unseat the Echelon Racing League champion and current series leader, Jackie Godby. All right, Mobs up onto the wheel. Now watch in the upper left corner of her screen. You see just the drafting indicator indicating that how much wattage she's saving by being able to sit behind that rider. So Mobs probably doesn't want to be doing work on the front right now. She shouldn't be pushing. She certainly shouldn't be setting tempo for Godby. But if that's the price you pay to play in that sandbox, then I guess Rhea Mobs may be better off doing a little bit of work here. All right, we got another special guest on the show today. We are so lucky to have Lauren with so many people coming through the house. Catherine Bertine joining us from the Homestretch Foundation House in Tucson, Arizona. Catherine, welcome to the show. First off, I want to say congratulations. Your 1-year anniversary of your book, Stand, just a couple days ago.
Hey, Brad, it's great to be connected with you, and thank you so much for the kind words. Yeah, it's been a year. I can't believe it.
Hey, so we were talking earlier with Lauren about the Homestretch Foundation and what you guys do out there in Tucson. We've seen so many riders come through that program and the success that translates into real life. Tell me a little bit more about the Homestretch Foundation, sort of the history, how it got founded, how it got started, and where you guys are at today.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Brad. So yeah, as with many things, you know, they say necessity is the mother of invention. And that's kind of how it was with Homestretch back when I was racing at the World Tour level in 2015, 2016. I remember thinking, like, this is crazy. I might have to leave this sport because I can't make ends meet. But if I were a guy at the World Tour level, I would have a minimum base salary, and at least I could eke by without having, 2 or 3 part-time jobs in addition. And that was really the emphasis for, like, what can we do? We've got to push for a gender pay scale here in the World Tour level at least. But until we get women to this to have this pay gap reduced, we got to figure out a way to support the women who are at that level. And wouldn't it be amazing if they had a place to live and train for free while they're chasing their pro cycling goals and dreams? And so that was the plan that I put out there into the universe, and I found a pretty amazing investor who came in and said, I get this, let's see if we can make this happen. But only if behind the scenes, we're working to change the base salary structure. We didn't want to be a band-aid approach of like, oh, here's a free place, women can train. You know, it's like, no, we have to fix the broken parts. So
which is
we did. We started
also partially about what Stand is about, your journey to to getting an equal women's Tour de France, to building a professional environment where professional women cyclists can thrive.
Yes, thank you. That was really the heart of of Stand, of the book, which is really about what happens when we stand on the front lines of change, and it explores that entire section of my life where we launched La Course by Tour de France, and what really happened behind the scenes when you go head to head with ASO, the parent company of the Tour de France, and with UCI. We know that both of these organizations are very steeped in tradition, so to have some of us loud, pushy women come to the front lines and say, hey, we want to make some change happen. You can only imagine how how well appreciated that was in the beginning. But we persevered. And I think the biggest part is that it was not a solo endeavor. It was bringing other women into the front lines who also stood for the same beliefs. And that's where we had Marianne Voss and Emma Pooley and pro triathlete Chrissy Wellington. We all came together to make this happen. So, long story short, we were able to get women into the Tour de France, and then, of course, from La Course, build up to what we have coming this year, the Tour de France Femme, which is huge, as you can imagine. But yeah, I'm happy that I was able to play a role and to kind of kick the door open for change, but it's up to the current generation to keep that going and to keep the pressure on when the inequity rears its ugly head sometimes. And I love what's happening with e-racing and this platform, which has really allowed women to thrive, and especially during the pandemic times, when so much just kind of flew out the window. Only it didn't, because we had amazing programs like this happen. And I love it when we see some of our homestretch athletes, jump in and, and really shred electronically and otherwise. So, and thank you, Brad, for being part of this and for really making this happen and giving a voice. You have always been a strong supporter of the women in the sport, and I appreciate that, and I know so many others do as well.
It's been awesome watching these stories unfold here on RGT. By far, our strongest rides are in these women's fields, so these are my favorite races of the Echelon Racing League. Catherine, thank you so much for taking the time. The book is Stand, a memoir on activism, a manual for progress, what really happens when we stand up on the front lines of change, in bookstores and on Amazon now, by author Catherine Bertine. Thank you so much, Catherine. All right, as our pro men go down to 17K to go, we'll go over and check in with our hand cycling competition. Yesterday, we saw Sander Koeman get another win, and looks like he may be on track to add a third this weekend at the Experience Fayetteville Criterium. Sander at 4K to go in our hand cycling field. He rides in the H3 category. You see Andre behind him, an H4 rider. Mika Art is the closest H3 rider to Koeman right now, at just under 500 meters back. So once again, Sander Koeman seems to be crushing on the front of this hand cycling competition. He's got just under 4K to go again, so 2.5 laps, something like that. And just getting over that big hill right now, up and back down. There's a look at Sander. We talk about some good pain faces in the pain caves, Lauren. I think Sander might have one of the best of them. This guy seems to have the mental ability to go deeper than most people could ever dream of.
No doubt, and we saw him yesterday too. After the ride, he was just exhausted. Like, it's just, it's a later race start for these guys over there in Europe, so it's we're very grateful to have them be a part of this platform. And yeah, Koeman is just one of our standout athletes that shows up week in, week out.
They said looking to sweep the weekend here at the Joe Martin stage race. We also saw Joe Bernier leading our paracycling competition. He wrapped that up yesterday at the Mount Sequoia Road Race. Again, so cool to offer para and hand cycling competitions. The founders of Project Echelon worked closely with the Paralyzed Veterans of America organization and RGT to help implement these para and hand cycling rider icons, which I think really speaks to what RGT and the Echelon Racing League is all about. Obviously, Project Echelon works closely with veterans in their mission to educate, equip, and empower through physical activity. And this is just another way that Project Echelon is achieving their mission.
Yeah, Brad, I don't know if you saw, again, I pay attention to social media. I'm going to call it paying attention. I may be slightly addicted to social media. I was looking at Eric Hill's social media last night, and he was recognized at a rodeo or bull riding something or another. So it's cool to see cycling recognized in other venues. And you just never know who's paying attention or whose interest you're going to pique, and to have that awareness is just go beyond cycling is a really great thing that these guys are doing.
Art back in third in the H3 competition. Our second Finnish rider in the Echelon Racing League. We have Anna Rokinen racing in our pro women's field.
The Mustang in the back, is that right? The P51
Yeah,
Mustang?
we're learning about some. It's a Spitfire, Lauren. Come on.
It's a Spitfire? Oh, I couldn't remember which one you had said yesterday, and it was the other one.
I
so.
said P51 Spitfire, but it's the P51 Mustang is the actual plane. There is no such thing as a P51 Spitfire, as I learned. But I was close because the Spitfire and the Mustang were in the air at the same time, and there is a hot debate in the aerospace community about which one is cooler. I also learned, so I'm not going to get into the middle of that.
Okay, well, I was paying attention yesterday, just so you know.
You learn something new every day.
That's right.
There you go. It's a cool painting or photo. I'm not sure what it is. He's got the classic Continental jersey as well. So Art at 2.6K to go as he tries to hunt down Andre and Kuman up the road. He's got a nice lead over Drosky behind him, so I don't think he has to worry about what's coming up in fourth. And Kuman looking pretty good up at the front. Kuman pushing 60K on the flats here on the way down. I can only imagine what that feels like on these hand cycles, being that low to the ground. The speed is almost under a magnifying glass when you can see that pavement speeding by underneath you. So Kuman flying on the way down. Looks like he will be good for another win in our hand cycling competition. We'll keep an eye on Andre and Art, see if things change back in the battle for second and third. Meanwhile, Rhea Mobbs has gotten whatever the issue was fixed, because she is not only back with Jackie Godby, but is back to attacking off the front into P1.
Good for her. Man, I mean, to come back from that mechanical, you saw how frustrated she was, and then everything after yesterday, just even showing up today, and then to go off the front again. She's not afraid of anything.
That's Mobs on the left, Godby on the right.
Godby's almost just like a metronome, isn't she? I mean, just, okay, you have a mechanical, I'm going to go past you. Okay, you're back in and you go off up the front again. Okay, well, I'm just going to sit right here and continue doing what I do best.
Gap is only 115 meters here, so although I think she is starting to worry a little bit because she was into the red zone there going through. Still 10K to bring it back, but if this gets any bigger than like 200, 250 meters for Jackie Godby, then it tells me that maybe this is not by choice for Godby. She's not letting, she's not easing off and letting this go.
Yeah, but I also just wonder if Mobs, gosh, she's just spiking out and then dropping out like that. It's and then all that adrenaline rushes and she goes off the front again, and just can she hold it for this last 10K, or will Godby just, like I said, metronome her way right back to her?
Meanwhile, Miller and Ulay back in fourth and fifth. Locked in together. This is going to be a good one. Again, this group we were talking about, I have a feeling they probably sprinted out in this 5-rider group here, which will be fun to watch. They're about 230 back on Ayala, sorry. So that'll be the next rider that they either pick up or comes into the group, as Ayala in third, still all alone.
We saw this group yesterday kind of fall to pieces towards the end of the race and start attacking each other. So they're still racing back here. They're not just riding around to the finish. It's dynamics. You can learn a lot from whatever group you're in, and again, how to play the platform and to get the most out of yourself. We saw McCrosty really putting in some efforts towards the end of the race yesterday. So tons of racing for them, even though it may not be for a podium position. This is still good for them to continue forward and to race one another.
Nelson leading the way. Miller doing a lot of work up here at the front as well. Ayala back up to 450 on the gap. So I think Erin Ayala is probably focused on trying to hold on to third right now. I don't think she's as worried about trying to make up the gap to Godby or Mobs. That's going to be near impossible at this point. 3K, 11K to go. Yeah, not going to happen. So Ayala is now just defending third. This is sort of like a pursuit. This is just like if she had gone into a breakaway and now she's trying to hold on to that break all the way to the line, because the same concept applies here. It's a solo rider trying to hold off a group of 5, all working together behind to catch her. So Erin Ayala is in a tough spot. It's Ayala versus the world.
Yeah, Ayala definitely doesn't want to get caught by this group because, strength in numbers, and some of them have been able to recover on some of the downhills and sit in and enjoy that draft, and she hasn't been able to, essentially, since the race started, minus a couple of kilometers. So she's going to want to push forward and keep that separation. It's almost it's not demoralizing when you get caught by a group, but you'd kind of hope to not have to worry about another 5 or 6 people to race around. Even though she's such a good finisher, it's still, like you said, she's going to want to continue to race forward and keep that gap. Like you said, it's essentially a break off the front. We're just midway in the race.
Meanwhile, Mobs holding on to that 220-meter gap over Jackie Godby. Pretty clear that Mobs doesn't want to sprint against Jackie today. Otherwise, she wouldn't have done this. I mean, she wouldn't have left Godby behind and tried to go against Godby in one of the formats that she does best, the individual time trial, as Godby picks up a lap on these riders. So I guess the only thing that Mobs is more afraid of than Godby's long sustained effort is her sprint. So Mobs trying to get away. Unfortunately for Mobs, they have not written in the free lap rule to virtual crit racing yet. In real life, if a rider has mechanical, they would be able to go into the pits at the Joe Martin stage race, get that mechanical fixed, and then they're allowed to go back into the race scored on the same lap as everyone else, even though they don't complete that lap, as long as they have a mechanical issue beyond their control. Those riders are allowed to take one free lap to get that fixed. We may have to do that in virtual racing, like a free drop out period or something where you get to reconnect and get back in. I'm not sure how that would work. There are much smarter people than me that I'm sure will figure that out, but I guess that's one of the differences between virtual and in real life racing.
Yeah, that would be a nice feature to add, maybe a button or something that you have like a 30-second free opportunity to, I don't know what that would look like, but you're right. It is something that happens in real life, and that's kind of what RGT is all about, is that in real life experience. So, but now we're getting down towards the end of the race, and you don't have free laps with so many laps to go. So another factor, she's got to hope that her trainer doesn't drop out again, or the internet, or whatever it was. Yeah.
She's got to be thinking about that. I mean, that has to be on the top of her mind. Every time you see that wattage drop, I think you probably think in the back of your head, is this my connection dying? Am I losing it? Or is it just sort of a natural ebb and flow of power? So, yeah, she's got to be nervous right now.
Yeah, especially, again, after yesterday's unfortunate situation, whatever happened, again, like she had to finish that day. That takes something out of you mentally, and then to have a dropout today, yeah, she's just probably walking on pins and needles. Godby, though, man, she's just a stone cold killer, just staring it down, staring the computer down.
A lot of people will make excuses when they have a technical like that. They'll say, the app always crashes, or my trainer doesn't work, or my Bluetooth reader doesn't work. Well, it is possible to run a technically flawless season, because Jackie Godby did it, and I don't think that's by accident, let's say. So all that preparation that goes into it. Now, that being said, people like me, where I live, I can only get a certain internet connection, right? My building is not wired for virtual racing, so I wouldn't be able to do this where I live. I wouldn't be able to ride at that high of a level because the connection just isn't there. So it's physically impossible for some people to ride at this level if they don't have the right internet connection.
Sounds like you're setting up a good excuse. I don't know that I buy that. I mean, look at the St. Louis Alliance group. I mean, they just go to a facility together. Well, I'm not buying that, Brad.
Well, we'll never know. So I'm going to stay on this side of the virtual racing.
No, you're training. We're doing Iron Horse on the tandem together. Garrett is
right.
coaching us. Have you forgotten the last 6 weeks?
I thought it was an e-bike. I thought we were e-bike tandem training. That's what I signed up for.
You find an e-bike tandem and we're in.
Battle for fourth with Baker, Nelson, Miller, McCrosty, and Oulet. This is a stressful scenario when you know that eventually this is going to heat up and you're kind of just waiting for it. McCrosty and Miller already in the red zone trying to hang on, so I think they are already feeling this effort with 8K to go. Working their way up the 8% gradient. Oy, 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 oy.
Yeah, I mean, you think about how hard yesterday was, and then you come back today and you're just doing this climb over and over again for an hour. It's added up at this point, and you're just counting down the laps.
really not a question of if, but when I think somebody jumps out of this group. I don't think all 5 in here want to sprint it out, so we'll see who the Rhea Mobs of the group is that wants to go with the long-range attack. There's the moose I was talking about yesterday, just to the right side. I think it's actually a deer or something, but could be like a female moose with no horns, you know. There's another one. They're all over the place.
Gotta be careful out there. They need to set up some easy up tents because it'd be more realistic for a crit. It'll be interesting to see if we see what was happening in the men's race earlier. Kevin Bouchard Hall kind of went 1K, 2K out, and then just kept it hard. And like you're talking about, just counting down the laps, and these ladies anticipating that. And if one of them are thinking about that, or if you're not feeling good and you kind of pray that they don't do that and it just takes it into that last climb for the sprint finish. That was kind of how I felt on some days. But yeah, I would imagine that somebody's going to strike out early from that group and try and go from a long way.
Well, Mob's making an incredible comeback today after suffering an early race mechanical, losing contact with Jackie Godby. Godby passes her while she's getting reconnected. She not only catches Godby, but goes right by her and now opens up at least a 200-meter gap. That's aggressive riding. And this ends one of two ways for Rhea Mobs, either really well or very, very poorly if she mistimes this and blows up. But that's the risk that you have to take to beat Jackie Godby, because you're not going to beat Godby letting Godby get in control. This is absolutely what Rhea Mobs has to do. If you want to win big, you got to risk big.
Exactly. Exactly, Brad. I mean, if you don't take the chance, you never know. And that was always the essence of breakaway mentality, is if you don't even get up the road, you'll never know. So at least take the chance.
Looks like Mobs has calmed down a little bit, seeing her power sort of normalize on the chart in the upper left, tracking her last 20 seconds or so of power, keeping it right around 250 here.
She sure does make it look easy. I mean, she's until the computer drops out and she kind of throws her hands up in the air. You can't, you can't tell that she's going that hard, but she is. I mean, we're looking at her watts per kilo, and but yeah, she just makes it look so easy.
Well, she might be giving herself a break at just the wrong time, because look at this. Here comes Jackie Godby, now under 100 meters. Back to Mobs. That forces Mobs out of the saddle.
And then Godby's like a shark in water, you smell blood, taste blood. She's going to come in for the kill.
Yeah, look how Mobs has to redouble her effort. Not looking so comfy anymore as they get onto the climb, and Jackie Godby shows up in the rear view mirror. This is like the joke, objects in mirror may be closer than they appear. Well, I think Jackie was a little closer than Rhea Mobs thought.
A little too close for comfort. Open that gap back out.
Yeah, and she wants to hold on to this. I mean, if you have it at 2K to go, you might as well go all in on the plan. Now is not the time to change the plan. As she gets the bell for one lap to go, going through the line for Rhea Mobs, 2K away from unseating Jackie Godby on the podium.
A stage win would be huge for Mobs. She's had it a couple of weeks ago. Godby's pretty much got the GC wrapped up, but this is a good ride today for Mobs.
Gap back out over 100 meters. Godby is rapidly running out of time to beat Rhea Mobs here. She needs to close it down before they get to that last hill. If Godby isn't within 50 meters by the time they get there, no shot. On to the downhill section now. Mobs use the opportunity to get a little rest in, zero out that power meter.
Very similar heart rates to both athletes.
Godby at 176, Mobbs at 177. And that'll take us down to the last K of racing here.
Yeah, Brad, I think Godby's just going to go for the, just ride this in. She's got GC wrapped up. Could be Mobbs for the win.
Gap coming down, though. They brought it under 100. Down to 60
Famous
here.
last words.
Godby can now see Mobbs with 400 meters to go. Both out of the saddle.
Mobbs got to
can't get it
push
under
now.
70.
Got to push on.
Yep. Round this little right-hand bend, and then it's the last 275 meters up to the line. Gap down to 50 meters. Here comes Godby, 180K to go. 40 meters now. Down to the last 100 meters of racing. And I don't think Godby's going to have it today. Rhea Mobbs comes back from the mechanical, catches Godby, and attacks again to win the Experience Fayetteville Criterium.
Good finish for Mobbs. She doesn't even look like she's tired.
Wow, crushed it. Did the work early, came back from an unfortunate incident, and then beats one of the best virtual riders in the world right now in Jackie Godby. Well,
Godby was definitely coming in for the end.
Not often that you see Jackie Godby get beat, so a little bit of history made today on RGT. Here is the race for third. Aaron Ayala, the only eligible rider here. Dorr is a lap down. So Ayala going to come through solo to wrap up our podium in third, and then that battle for fourth is about 700 meters behind her with Miller, Nelson, McCrosty, and Baker. We'll see if we can pick that up as Ayala makes her way in for another podium finish this season. Is Aaron wrapping up as well?
Good focus by Aaron. I mean, she's kind of been in no man's land a lot of this race season. So coming from a triathlete background, she's probably very comfortable in this space, but still you join the RGT platform to race against others. And she did. She starts out with everybody and hangs on until she gets dropped essentially. And then she finds her rhythm and just sits in and has just had a stellar season rounding out the podium.
Here's the race for fourth with Miller leading the way. This one gonna hot up here as they get ready to head out on their final lap of racing. Gonna see 2K to go when they go through the line. So while Ayala goes solo through the line, race for fourth going into the yellow and orange power zones. Still nobody jumping out of this group. I'm a little surprised, but also day three of a stage race. We're, maybe less inclined to make those aggressive moves.
Exactly. But yeah, you're right. I'm a little surprised at that as well. Maybe waiting till the last kilometer?
Or maybe they're sticking together thinking that they can bring Ayala back. They did make up a little bit of time, brought it under 400 meters. So I'm not sure if this is maybe a concerted effort to try to bring back third. I do think they're going to run out of time, but they have been somewhat consistently bringing back just a little time on Ayala over the last couple kilometers. Everyone into the red on the climb now in the race for fourth. Nelson leading the way. Project Echelon has 2 riders here, but I don't know that you can really do much in terms of tactics. At this point with that hill, it's not like you can really send a rider up the road. This group gets the bell for one to go as well.
Yeah, right. Sometimes you're just back there in gruppetto essentially with your teammates and just trying to salvage the day.
So Ayala going to roll through onto the Flamme Rouge here soon. Work her way off the downhill section. Wave at Lauren in the VIP tent, drinking a Bloody Mary, and then hit the line and wrap up.
No, I'm on the podium. I'm announcing first, Brad. We work first, and then we have a good time after work. Gotta keep you straight.
I have a feeling this is just going to come down to that last climb for our fourth place group on the right side of the screen. They're just going to have a good old-fashioned slugfest on the way up out of that last corner. All on the last 6% gradient right now. You can see the red percentage now switching to green as she gets a little downhill section here, showing the current grade that the riders are on. And it's this last little right-hand bend, just like in real life. You do that that last corner, and then you can see the finish line, but there's a big old kicker in between you and that arch. This is also where you can start to smell the grilling and cookouts going on at the finish line. You can start to hear the announcer and the fans cheering you on. So right about this point, she's in a tunnel of noise being cheered up the last time on the climb.
Exactly. It's a good feeling to be done. Good job, Aaron.
Man, and again, to stick to that on a solo ride, stuck in the gap all day. That's an hour alone on the trainer for Aaron Ayala, but getting it done here in the Echelon Racing League, in for third on the day. Race for fourth. Looks like Kim Miller leading the way up the top of the climb. The German making an early jump. McCrosty going to try and surge from the back. Remember, she's got Baker, her teammate, with her. There goes Miller, though. Miller out of the saddle, top left on the SIS zoom camera that you see there. McCrosty coming on strong. She's going to go over the top of her. Here goes Mallory McCrosty. Miller's not done yet. She still has the wheel. 75 meters. Under 50. McCrosty holds on. She'll take fourth place on the day, out sprinting the group to the top of the climb in downtown Fayetteville. Nice job by McCrosty. That is not an easy tactic to win out of. I mean, that situation, it's a classic scenario, but you'll never have the same scenario twice.
Yeah, to just stay in the game and mentally be ready for the sprint finish like that, like they all were. I mean, that's a good finish for all those ladies.
All right, but maybe nobody had a better day than the one rider that was able to upset Jackie Godby this season. Rhea Mobbs gets the win on the final day. Let's go grab a word with her in the SIS interview room.
Thanks, Brad. I'm here in the SIS Zoom room with our winner for today, Rhea Mobbs. Rhea, what a comeback for you today. You struggled a little bit with technical difficulties, but tell me how you were able to get back in this race.
Yeah, so yesterday after the huge technical issue, I made sure that I just saved my legs for today and just thought I'd take a risk. And obviously I took it at the right time. I could see a gap forming, so I knew it was my time just to go and not wait.
And this course was different from yesterday's course. Yesterday's course was more of a long form. This is more of a crit. How did this course fit to your riding style specifically?
Yeah, so as a more power rider, I prefer the really punchy races rather than those really long hills and drags like yesterday, and focusing on the hour power rather than the 2 hours that was yesterday, which is much more comfortable than yesterday.
I got to talk with Jackie Godby yesterday after her win, and she said that she expected you to come out with guns blazing today. And you definitely did. Can you talk a little bit about that competition in these races against Jackie and going head to head with her?
Yeah, so it's been really great to be the underdog of the series, but to then push and constantly be pushed in the road races. I've definitely improved from the first one to even yesterday, but I just got to be constantly there. And even in the crits, the technical aspect, you have to improve throughout just to beat the riders, and that competition is just amazing, really. Just to keep pushing constantly, and you can never push yourself as much as obviously another rider can. So even just a few meters ahead, you're on your limit just to keep ahead with the competition.
Definitely.
Really.
Last question for you today, and kind of a simple one. How happy are you with the win today?
Very. It's a lot nicer coming back and doing a good ride. Definitely.
Awesome. Congratulations to you, Brad.
Thank you.
Back to you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Ray, and thank you, Emma. Emma Watson has been doing our interviews all season in the SIS Zoom room, and been doing a great job, so we appreciate having you on the team here, Emma. Lauren, so cool for Ray and Mobs on the last really opportunity of the season. It comes down to the last regular season race of the year here in 2022 and season 2 of the Echelon Racing League, and Ray and Mobs gets Jackie Godby by just over 5 seconds on the line.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a good comeback from yesterday's situation and efforts, and then again today, even dropping out once. So good focus by Rhea, and still a stellar result by Godby. I mean, she was so close there at the finish.
And, of course, got to give some credit to Aaron Ayala as well. 3rd place, hung in there for the Velocity Vixen team today. Mallory McCrosty gets the best of Kim Miller in an excellent 2-up sprint to the line. That group with Dylan Baker, Kate Oulet, and Moira Nelson. And then in 9th and 10th comes Sarah Carolus and Emma O'Toole of the Project Echelon team as well. Those are your top 10 on the day today. The Experience Fayetteville Joe Martin Criterium. And Lauren, once again, it proved to be a real barn burner out there in the crit. I love this crit course in Fayetteville.
Yeah, it was so close again, coming down to that finish. I mean, today was more about just the finish of today's race more than the GC. Godby just crushed it yesterday and definitely set herself up for an overall win. But you could tell, like, Godby definitely wanted to come back for the stage win today too, but Mobs was able to hold her off. It was a good race today.
And for a lot of these riders, the season continues into the national championships, then the world championships. And for a lot of them, it's right back into in real life racing after that. I know many of these riders will be joining us in person at the Joe Martin stage race this May 19th through 22nd. I know you and I will be there as well, and we want to invite all riders to join us in Fayetteville. It really is going to be a lot of fun. If it's anything like what we saw at the Cross World Championships this year, Lauren, I am psyched to get back to Arkansas.
I can't wait. It's the Southern hospitality, it's the racing, it's the weather. It's such a good place to be. Fayetteville is very welcoming, and it's beautiful roads, beautiful riding. Devil's Den is absolutely gorgeous. So, yeah, I can't wait to be back and be on this side of the fence.
Again, it's the Walmart Joe Martin stage race coming up May 19th through 22nd this year, with categories for all riders and some really great courses. That is going to do it for us today from the Echelon Racing League, Stage 3 of the Walmart Joe Martin stage race. Congratulations to all of our winners. On behalf of my partner, Lauren Hall, my name is Brad Soner. For our director, Mark Zalewski, our intern, Emma Watson, and camera operator, Damon Bates, thanks for being with us today and all season at the Echelon Racing League. As we wrap up Season 2 here, we'll see you next weekend for the League Championships, and then it's on to Nationals and Worlds. Bye for now.